Are you longing to feel connected and not so alone? Longing to be happy and more alive? Badass Counseling is excited to announce the creation of Community Plus, a subscription-based private group of folks just wanting to more closely share their soul journey together with like-minded folks and with me, Sven. For a monthly fee, you'll get bi-monthly live Q&As with me, Sven, giving you a better chance of getting your own questions answered. A private community feed for you to post pictures, successes, struggles, joys, even the occasional cat picture, creating greater connection and help for healing and growth. Random drawings for free small group sessions and drawings for private coaching sessions with me. Priority access to becoming a guest on the Badass Counseling Show podcast. Unlimited access to my DIY video courses, Healing the Soul and Unleashing Your Greatness. And so much more. Community Plus is for people serious about their soul journey who want real growth, real help, real laughter, real connection, and true community. Join us now at badasscounseling.com.
From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, you are here with the Badass Counseling Show. We are taping a live episode of the show, and this is one of our lightning rounds where we take your questions wherever you are checking in from around the world. We presently have folks checking in from Chicago, Illinois, lots of folks in from the greater Illinois area, Chicagoland. I've got guests in from Romania, folks all the way in from South Africa and Australia. We've got lots of folks in from Seattle, whole lot of folks from Canada. We love our Canadian friends. Got some Texans checking in, and we've got folks in from the UK, someone just checking in from Essex and Houston and so forth, folks in from all over the world. And so I'm about to start taking your questions here. Go ahead. And Rose in Ruins says, he said I was the love of his life for months, then randomly ghosted me. Why? Why is this happening? One of the things we have to understand in life, folks, is that some people use the word love and I love you differently than other people use it. And it's not always malicious. Now, I'm not saying it may be malicious with this particular person, Rose, but it's not always malicious. When I was younger, I could feel such a swelling of feelings, and I would say to someone, I love you so much, a girl, a woman or whatever. And not just because we were having sex or I wanted to have sex. It wasn't just for sex. It was that I felt these feelings so strongly and it felt like such powerful love. And I would say it to the person. Now, if you're a person who, for you, love means you're committed to me, or that means, when you say, I'm the love of your life, that means you want to be with me forever. That other person may feel that in the moment, or they may not intend that, but they feel strong feelings of love. In other words, how I interpret love may be very, very different from how you interpret love. So Rose in Ruins, when he said you are the love of his life, he may have very well meant it. Now, he may not have, but I'm saying he may have very well meant it. But then when those big feelings are gone, then he's gone. Okay? So in other words, some people don't weight the word love, weight, W-E-I-G-H-T, the way other people do, and don't give it the same, perhaps, commitment inference that other people do. And for you, it meant, wow, this is long-term. And he may have even indicated long-term, but then he changed his mind and he left and he ghosted you. And the way he did it, the ghosting, is fucking cruel. To just walk away and to coldly walk away from a relationship is fucking cruel. It's funny because I was just having this conversation with my girlfriend the other day. We were talking about, exits from previous relationships. And she was talking about how one of the benefits that she had with a couple of the long-term relationships in her life was that the men were very deliberate about comforting her. And when she left a man that she was in love with and so forth, but the chemistry wasn't working and the time of life, they were in different phases of life, she was very deliberate about not, she hadn't rushed into a new relationship, and she was very deliberate about comforting him and saying, I'm not moving into a new relationship. This just isn't working. And she was very deliberate about taking his feelings into account. And that matters. When you're breaking up, it matters to take the other person's feelings into account. Now, in cases if there's been abuse or something like that, obviously there are exceptions, but how you break up matters. And so when Rose in Ruin says, he said he was the love of my life for months and randomly ghosted me. Why is this happening? It's happening ultimately, if I'm not trying to be a dick, he doesn't want you anymore. And that sucks because it felt like he so wanted you. And so then to have that carpet yanked out from under you, it destroys you. It does. And so you're fucking grieving right now and it doesn't make sense and you want it to make sense and you want an explanation in part because if there's an explanation, then maybe I could fix it. But the bottom line is he turned his back and he left and you're grieving right now. And all you can do is grieve. All you can do is grieve. And if you move on too quickly, you short circuit the grieving process, which means you're taking those grieving feelings with you into the next relationship. And you don't want that because that'll undermine the next relationship. All right, next question. When you're healed, do you still get triggered by the same person that used to trigger you? No. When you're fully healed. So let me give you a for instance, okay? And this is, it's sort of not fair because there's been such a massive lapse of time. But when my first wife left me, all right, I was madly in love and we had 2 kids together and we'd been together 6 years and she leaves me. We separated. She separated for about a year before the divorce. And I grieved over losing her and losing our kids, and not being able to give them a 2-parent home. I grieved that for probably 2.5 years, maybe even 3. All right. And I was in it, man. And I'd be curled up in a ball on the living room floor and the tears I couldn't even cry anymore. I was crying, but there were no tears left in my ducts, my tear ducts. But the tears, but the pain that those tears were supposed to get rid of wasn't gone. It took about 2 to 3 years for that to be gone. All right. And then there was some cruel shit done regarding my kids and so on and so forth over the next several years. And I kept doing the work. So even though I was releasing on the initial pain of the divorce and so forth, more stuff was being done after that. So more shit was being dumped into my love cup. So I had to keep doing more work and more work. But then it was about 10 years later where I was finally healed, done. I had been doing the work. And so now, in the 17 or 18 years since the 10 years later. So it's been basically 30 years almost since the divorce. Now we get along fine. I saw her at my kid's wedding this summer and we kid around and we can have long conversations. And her spouse is a great guy and she gets along with my longtime girlfriend and so forth. So I'm not triggered in the least by her, and granted, it's not fair because that's a 30-year lapse of time, but I also did the work. And so the point is, if you're in the process of healing, yes, a person can still trigger you. But once you're healed, it means you've gone into the trigger to find out what's going on inside of me. Because it's not that person that is causing these feelings inside of me. It's the pain inside of me that is being triggered. The trigger is the person, but the thing that is being triggered is the dynamite inside of me. That pain, that hurt, that rage, and I need to bring that out. Rob is sort of shifting around in his chair. I know he has something to say.
I got a question about healing when you're ready for it.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. This is from YouTube. It's from April. During a healing journey, is it normal to have a sudden intense anger at God and religion? How do I deal with that? Should it be writing letters I don't send or what?
No, that's a great question. As a former clergyman, I feel like now we're sort of in my old wheelhouse, so I feel quite comfortable talking on this. Being mad at God, if you are a person of faith, is fantastic. First of all, God can handle it. If there is, in fact, a God, and you obviously believe there is, and so I'm going to run with it. I'm going to play the ball where it lies. I'm going to play from your perspective. If there is a God, okay, and we're assuming there is, God can handle it. God has created worlds. God has dealt with all manner of shit. Your anger at God is neither mocked, nor scorned, or ridiculed, nor punished. It is welcomed. All right? It's like, you guys have heard me say this before when us kids in my family, I'm the youngest of 6 kids, when we were in our 20s and early 30s, my parents came to each of us, most of us, as far as I know, all of us, whatever, and said, how have I hurt you? How have I disappointed you? How did I let you down in your childhood? How have I hurt you? The parent came to us and said, let it out. Give me those rocks back that I put in that giant 500-pound bag of rocks on your back. Give me them back. The ways that I hurt you, the ways that I let you down, you need to be flying now, and you don't need to be encumbered by the pain that I have put in your life. Let's talk about it. Get mad at me. Tell me where you've been disappointed. A mature parent is the one that wants to acknowledge and own and take away the pain that they caused. Okay, well, I look at, again, from your position of faith, April, God is the same way. God can take it. God's like, let it out. It's okay to be mad at me. It's okay. All right. You guys may recall I had a young person that I had been counseling. I mentioned this on the show, and this was quite some time ago, but I had a young person I was counseling who's this person was, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever, and said, if there's a God, I want to walk up and punch him in the face. I'm so mad. Why is God letting this happen to me? And I encourage that little kid, do it. Let's imagine it. And then what would God say? And then what would you want to say? Let it all out, right? Because the feeling is that if there's a loving God, then why are there these bad things happening to me? In theology, we call it that. It's the question of theodicy. Theodicy. How can a good God let bad things happen? I was just having this conversation very recently with a good buddy of mine, and I was saying that if there is a God, I absolutely believe that all of these things are leading us to higher ground. I really believe that. I really do. I think of, if there is a God, it's like the great strength coach in the sky, so to speak. And I'm using that metaphor loosely, obviously. And when I was an NCAA strength coach, when my athletes came into my room, into my gym, my job is to break them down. My job is to break these people of the belief that they know what's best for making them physically stronger and making them mentally tougher. They don't know what's best. That's what I'm there for. My job is to reach down their fucking throats and pull out all the bullshit they think they know, and then reach down their fucking throats and pull out their greatness. To unlock their true power. And we have to break down the muscle before the muscle can grow back stronger. Well, I absolutely believe the same thing spiritually. If you're a religious person, if you're on the Judeo-Christian side, then in the book of Job, what does Satan say to God? Satan says to God, oh yeah, sure, Job's all Mr. fucking faith, but he's got everything going for him. Easy. Let me go down and fuck with him a bit. Let's see how good his faith is, God. You're always bragging about fucking Job. Let's go see how good this fucker is. And God's like, all right, go for it, brother. Here we go. Rock and roll, hoochie coo. You just can't touch his body. All right, I believe was the agreement. And so Satan goes down and he starts fucking with him. And this is before, in the evolution of what we think of as Satan or the devil and so forth, this is before Satan becomes Ho Diabolos. That happens more right around 0 BCE or 0 of the Common Era. All right, so that's the Ho Diabolos. That's a different iteration of the Satan. Satan back in the times 1,000 years before that, 500 years before that, was more God's prosecuting attorney, and God's sort of challenger. And that's what he's doing in this case with Job, going down to challenge him. All right. And these challenges are sent in our lives, not just to make us stronger. That's a small and trite way of understanding it. These challenges, these difficulties, these destructions of our soul, these destructions of who we've always been, are meant to lead us to higher ground. I absolutely believe that. Greater fulfillment, greater peace, greater joy. I absolutely believe that. Just like when I would tear down my lifters' muscles and their old mental patterns to make them mentally tougher, all of this is to grow us back happier and more rich in terms of spirit and so forth. I absolutely believe that. It is utter destruction. And here's the thing. And listen to me closely on this. And this, it's funny, my children they've heard me say it so many times. My daughter had this carved into steel. I have it in my office. And it's simply this: creation. If you look at nature, what's something we know about nature? In nature, what happens? Well, the maggots come and eat the fallen bird. Okay? Then what eats the maggots? Oh, the mouse. Oh, the robin. And then what happens with the robin? The robin falls from the sky and dies and feeds some other animal. Or maybe the falcon eats the robin. I have falcons and hawks and owls on my land. Even saw an eagle recently. And they eat smaller birds, don't they? And then who eats the falcons? Well, they fall from the sky. A buddy of mine was just telling me just this morning that his feral cat brought a bird in. I never knew cats could catch birds. All right, so the point is that new life in one organism depends on the destruction of an old organism. old organism. My relationship that I enjoy now with the girlfriend that I've been with for 11 years required old relationships to die, required old iterations of me to die. Therefore, and this is the truism that's written on that piece of steel, creation is invariably preceded by destruction. It's a brutal, ugly truth of life, but there are few things more true than that. Just look at nature. What happens in fall? The leaves fall, the freezing comes, the flowers die, the ground goes fallow, right? It has to regenerate itself. Any farmer knows that the soil has to regenerate. What is it, corn that's so hard on soil? So they have to rotate crops to give the soils chance to regenerate from one year to the next. All right? Things have to die for things to live. And I believe that the destruction of old forms of self gives birth to new forms of self and new relationships and new iterations of life that bring greater joy if and only if and only if we have the courage to go in and not just feel the feeling, but actually put the feeling into words and be flushing it out. But if you're just stuffing that shit down, you are not changing the iteration of who you are. You are staying as the old iteration. Therefore, you are going to continue to repeat the patterns that invariably yield this pain because you're staying stuck in old you rather than healing and releasing and flushing out all that pain, fears, and bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourself to become new you. That was a long one. Just Jess today, I love your comment. Now you're fucking playing with the stuff I like to play with. Just Jess today says on TikTok, Kali, a Hindu goddess, was believed to be creation and destruction. Bingo. And Shiva as well, right? And in fact, one of the great as you guys know, I studied global religions. That's what my undergrad was in. My favorite author, and the one that I have is one of his quotes on my forearm is Joseph Campbell, who was the first person to really not just study, but study all of the religions of the world and indigenous religions and primitive myth systems and synthesize them. And so one of the gods, one of the icons in Hinduism is the Nataraj, and it's of the dancing. I believe it's Shiva, and both god of destruction and creation. Well, you don't have to go to Hinduism to see that. You can see that in Judaism. You can see that in Christianity. I mean, think about that. What is the central defining story of Christianity? Well, God came as, this guy, and then he gets slaughtered. And the story goes, and that saves you from your sins, however that works. But the point is God sends his son to be killed. According to the Christian story, the central story, defining story of Christianity is that Jesus was sent to be killed. It is a story of destruction and creation. Without the destruction of Jesus, there is no creation of eternal life, et cetera, et cetera. You well know how that story goes. All right? Creation is invariably preceded by destruction, and it sucks. It sucks that things must die for things to live. It sucks, but it is true. And for those of you that like physics, what do we know? Matter cannot be created or destroyed. It only changes form. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Only in a closed system, which we are here on Earth, energy cannot be created or destroyed. Therefore, things must, because there's a finite amount of molecules, and there's a finite amount of everything, something has to die in order for something new to live. Rob, you want to weigh in on that?
F equals ma, and you can't push a rope. That's what I remember about physics.
Right? Okay, fair enough. All right, let's move forward. All right. Ruin is the road to transformation, says PJ4JC. Yes, indeed, sir. All right. So a cool ID says, Sven, son of Erland, reference to my last name, Erland, son. I actually had an uncle named Erland Erlandsson because we Swedish Americans are so creative. Says, I don't understand integrate vices. Okay, this, I had done a post in the Badass Counseling group on Facebook and also in Community Plus on the Badass Counseling community. And I was talking about the integration of vices. That ultimately, there was a best-selling book this last year or two called The Shadow Journal. And it's nothing new. This is Carl Jung. This is the 1800s. And Carl Jung was the son of a pastor. And with Carl Jung, we know him as one of the fathers of modern psychology, or of psychology as a whole. But what Jung was trying to do was trying to find language for his father's faith. that was medical. And so what Jung was doing was synthesizing the medical and the spiritual, trying to. And so he's where this notion of integrating vices really becomes popular. Well, what does it mean? It means basically, the way I put it in my sort of language is, you've been taught shit about yourself, that something about you is bad. Okay, when I was younger, I was taught that I was irresponsible. When I was in my 20s especially, I was irresponsible. Prior to that, I was taught that I was loud, that I was arrogant, that I was a braggart and a bully. Bully was much more like elementary school, but that I was arrogant, talked too much, attention whore, that sort of thing, and a dick. And people who knew me from back then, some of them will be very quick to say that, and they're right. Okay. What I've come to realize is, so that's one example. Then I'm going to give a money example. In my home, my dad was clergy, right? And my dad came from a very wealthy home, very, very big farm family during World War II, the Depression, then the 50s that did very, very well. But my grandfather always said that three people most respected in the community are what? The banker, the doctor, and the pastor. And three of his sons became pastors, right? Eschewed, walked away from the wealth and embraced, serving people, right? So one of the values in our home, it's not that money was bad, it's just that money wasn't something you strive for. It was never forced on us. It was just modeled for us. So two of the messages I got growing up is that money is sort of less than. It is a less than form of existence, pursuing money. And also I got the message personally that I'm this arrogant, brash thing and prideful, and it's so fucking annoying. So I'm going into my 20s and my 30s thinking some of these things, or becoming aware of some of these things. And what I realized then into my 30s, as I'm doing more deeply my own integration work and my own deep belief system work, what I realized is that yes, arrogance and pride and boastfulness can be bad, but those are also tools. Those are operational tools that I now am able to use to heal people. How? You can't come on and do a fucking podcast. You can't write a book that ends up becoming a bestseller. You can't walk up in front of an audience of 5,000 or 10,000 people and stand in front of them and endure the slings and arrows and criticisms, but also believe that you have something to fucking contribute to life, unless you have some pride. I read about, and furthermore, regarding the money and pursuit of money, I lived on the streets working with the homeless for 2.5 years, sleeping on concrete every night. I have been poor. I have lived out of my car and ministered to the homeless living in cars, believe it or not. All this shit. Why? Because money wasn't that big a deal for me. And it's powerful to not need money. It's very powerful when you've been poor, if you've gotten yourself out of it, because you're not afraid of it anymore. All right, so what's my point? My point is, but I enjoy making money. I really do. I enjoy the fruits of making money. I enjoy buying a nice bottle of wine for friends who appreciate a good bottle of wine. I don't. It tastes purple to me. But hey, if they like it, God bless them. I enjoy, doing something nice for, my stepkids or for my kids or whatever, right? So I've had to integrate things that were formerly seen as vices. Money, in my old belief system, whether my parents ever intended or not, money was a vice. Being arrogant or being prideful was a vice. But now I've integrated, I actually use these. A book that changed my life in some ways, back when I was still a clergyman, was a book by a pastor from the 1940s and 50s named J. Wallace Hamilton, I believe his name was. And the title is Ride the Wild Horses. Now, this guy was a clergyman in the 30s, 40s, 50s, somewhere in there, in Florida, of a big successful church. This book is long out of print. And he was preaching back then. He said basically that he talked about what he called the Christian use of the untamed impulses, is the subtitle of the book. And basically, if you have that drum major instinct, what I was calling the pride and, that sort of thing, he says, harness it, ride that horse. Don't reject it outright as, it's just always bad. No, it can be good if used in pursuit of something good, right? I mean, think about it. I like going to the movies. I do. I like watching TV. TV shows and movies can inspire me, and they can grip me, and they can change me, and they can help me to grieve by sort of priming the pump. But who has to make those fucking things? Actors. Well, shoot. You can't be an actor unless a part of you wants the fame or is open to the fame, and a lot of them do. But when we're kids, we're taught desiring fame is bad. Well, it can be used. It can be transmuted into a powerful thing that helps people. Rob, the gentleman sitting right fucking next to me, was senior vice president of a major motion picture studio. He spent a career in entertainment. Rob, let me ask you, is there functionality to vices? What do you think of the idea of integrating vices as a man who has risen very high in his career and retired? And for you, did you have something that was seen as bad, either about you or in general in life, that you ended up harnessing and using to your benefit, or maybe even still?
Well, I was told as a kid that I talked too much. I talked all the time, they said, and then I had a successful 10-year career in radio. But later on at Paramount Pictures, had I been worse with my vices, I would have been a president instead of just a senior vice president.
Interesting.
I really do believe that.
Wow. And if you had been worse in terms of like just being more cutthroat or being a dick or more self-centered. Okay.
Exactly. And I couldn't do it. And so that was more important to me than more money or more status. I was a good boss.
All right. And so part of so ultimately then, what it means to integrate vice is to take those things that you have formerly believed were bad, either about life or about yourself, and to sort through them and to embrace, how is this still a part of me? That a part of Sven actually does enjoy making money. I do. Whereas for me to have said that 30 years ago in my 20s, I could have never said that because it was a bad thing in my brain. Even if that wasn't the message my parents intended, that was the message I believed. So I've had to integrate what was formerly for me a vice. All right. We're going to answer some more questions right after this short break.
You know, I've read so many self-help books and I always get something good out of them. But when I dove into There's a Hole in My Love Cup, well, it changed me. I cannot recommend this book highly enough. My copy is very dog-eared and highlighted. Thanks, Sven, for writing it. I love There's a Hole in My Love Cup and believe you will also. Order your copy at badasscounseling.com.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
We are back with the lightning round of the Badass Counseling Show, taking people's questions. I can see some people still have questions on this, so I'm going to take a little bit more on this. Ang over on TikTok is saying, how is pride good? How is pride good? Let me ask you this, and I remember writing about this in an article back in my 20s. Does it behoove, let's just look at something like basketball. Back when I was in my 20s, Michael Jordan was at the time the greatest basketball player in the world. Does it behoove Michael Jordan to say, I suck? Does it behoove Michael Jordan or any great athlete to say, oh, I'm just average? Now, I'm not saying going around saying, I'm the best and I'm the greatest. No, that's something different. That's an extreme level of something. But being proud of your work, if I'm proud of my work, what am I going to do? I'm going to work harder to make a great product. If you are a quality craftsman who makes, let's say, cabinetry, being proud of your work means that I'm going to put more detail into it and more work into it. And I'm going to make sure it's a great product that really serves people, that these cabinets are cabinets that somebody can really like and enjoy. Because I'm proud of my work, I'm going to do it well. All right? I'm not particularly proud of my gardening. I can do it, but I'm not great at it. I don't take pride in my gardening like the way I take pride in, let's say, writing a book, all right? Or counseling someone. The things I take pride in, I naturally work harder at. Therefore, my pride is serving my work, and my work is serving other people. So my pride facilitates my being proud, my actually having the audacity to believe that I have something to contribute to the conversation of life is what enables me to stand up in front of an audience of 5,000 people. Because I am proud enough to believe that I have something to contribute. Do I believe, I'm the all-being master of time, space, and dimension, and I have all answers? No, that's fucking stupid. I'm an idiot. On most things, I'm an idiot. The very computer that I am talking to you on, I know nothing about, which is why Rob is sitting there. Because Rob is proud of his work, and he does great fucking work. And if he weren't proud of him, I'd kick him in the ass. If he weren't proud of his work, because he does great work. I'm proud of his work, right? And I'm proud of the work we do together. Hell yeah. And you know what? That gets me excited to wake up and heal some more people tomorrow and serve some more people tomorrow. All right. So when I talk about integrating vices, I'm not saying, okay, now I'm just going to go be a drunk all the time. I'm talking about deeper shit here, folks. The integrating of the very things that you thought had been taught are bad about your person. Never were. consider that. All right, next question. Let's move forward. And to which Ramen Noodle says, cabinet maker, nailed it. Proud of everyone that I make from scratch. Love that shit, man. All right, Rob, give me a question over there on YouTube. By the way, Curb Long here says, Rob is the GOAT. All right, here we go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I appreciate that very much.
Here we go.
All right, Gretchen says on YouTube, my husband left for his affair partner. We were married 35 years, and now my adult children ask me to invite him, but not the partner, to come celebrate Christmas with us. How do I get through this?
Okay. And what's her name?
Her name is Gretchen.
Gretchen, first of all, if it is in your home, first of all, you're not obligated to do that. If you cannot do it yet or ever, you're not obligated. It is your home, Gretchen. I understand your children want, and what do we want as parents? We want our children to be happy, and we want to give them normalcy, or we want to give them what they want, a lot of times. And they want this, but if you're not ready, if you can't do it, you don't have to. You can say to them, can this wait? I need to make this wait until at least next year. I'm not capable. And that's okay. All right. I'm willing to bet if you've been married 35 or were married 35 years that your children are now adults, which means they're not young children, which would change the algebra here. So if they're older, you can speak to them as adults and say, I'm just not in that place. However, the language you use in that sentence indicates you've already made the decision, because you say, how do I get through this? Okay, so you've made the decision. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But what you need to do then, Gretchen, your children want, now that he has left you after 35 years and he left with his affair partner, and now the children want you to welcome him into your home for Christmas, and you've made the decision to allow that, you need to do the work in advance. It's not about what you're going to do in that moment. Yes, it's about that too. How am I going to handle it in the moment? What you need to be doing is now. What you need to be doing is going into, what am I feeling right now? Well, I'm going to list what I would be feeling if I were in your shoes, or what I might be feeling if I were in your shoes. Maybe you feel some of these things. I'd be really fucking angry at my kids for putting me in this position. I'd be compassionate towards my kids. I'd feel sad for my kids because I can understand why they're in this. So I'm feeling compassion for them. I can understand why they want us both together, because they want some sense of normalcy. All right. I'm mad at him. You said he left me with his affair partner after 35 years. You didn't say we got a divorce. No, you felt it necessary to include the cheating and that he left with his affair partner. So I'm willing to bet there's still anger there, and there is sadness there. All of these feelings that are so swollen inside of you, all of this shit needs to come out, Gretchen. And it needs to come out. You want to know why? Because those are the very things that are going to set you the fuck off in one way or another when that man is under your roof. Now, just for the record, I hope he has the decency to not bring his affair partner. And you have every right to say that he cannot bring his affair partner. You have every right to say that. You don't have to put up with that shit. All right? But if you're doing it for your kid, if your kids are asking you to not only invite him, but invite the affair partner, to be very honest with you, that's where I would tell my kids, you don't have a right to ask me that. Now, that's trusting that they know what the story is. And if they don't know what this story is, but the affair partner is coming into your home, now you would be fully within your boundaries to tell them what happened, because you do not have to have anyone in your home if you don't want it, when your children are adult children especially. But back to the point, you've made the decision already. So what are you going to do? You need to get as much of those feelings out between now and Christmas when the ex comes, with or without his affair partner. Why? Because it's those feelings that are going to cause you to shut down. It's those feelings inside of you that are going to get so stirred up on Christmas Eve when he's there, or Christmas Day. And it's going to cause you to be agitated or fearful or constantly spying or whatever it is. So the more you get that shit out now through journaling and writing letters to him that you don't send, and letters to your kids and flushing it, the more you do it now, the less triggered you're going to be in that moment. And then in that moment, what you need to be doing is taking time away. And I mean 5 minutes to step outside and breathe. Do some breathing exercises. Or if he's coming on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day that night or the next morning, wake up, go get a workout, go for a walk, do some journaling, flushing it out. You need to be making time for yourself to recenter in the moment. But the real work is beforehand. And of course, afterwards too, flushing all the shit out afterwards. Was there a follow-up on that, Rob?
No affair partner. I set that up already, and the kids are fully aware of what happened.
Okay. So the affair partner will not be there. The kids are aware that he cheated on you after 35 years. It's really fascinating. I would be very curious to know how long ago he left you with the affair partner, because this is really a big ask from your adult children. This is a huge ask that they are asking of you. Now, if it happened 10 years, it's obviously not so great of an ask. If it happened 5 years ago, still not as huge an ask. But if it just happened like in the last year, it's a big ask. And just for the record, people, I'm not saying ass, A-S-S, I'm saying ask, A-S-K. It's a big ask from your kids. It really is. And there's a certain amount of hubris there, or a certain amount of entitlement there almost, and I know we want to make our kids happy, and I know you're trying to help them heal with it and deal with it. But as adult kids, they also have a responsibility. As adult kids, they have a responsibility to understand that this is hitting you very, very hard because this was done to you.
It was this year.
Oh, God. Gretchen, for those of you on TikTok, you may not have heard that Gretchen's husband of 35 years left him with his affair partner. And it just happened this year. And the adult children are saying to her mom, we want dad to be at Christmas too. And Gretchen has said, can't bring the affair partner, but Gretchen has acquiesced to her kids. Gretchen, on one hand, you're a saint for giving that gift to your kids. But if I'm really honest, you're enabling them to push you around because that's just, to me, that is too much of an ask in the first year since it just happened. So you have every right to be fucking pissed off and to be pissed off at them. And yeah, you need to flush out those feelings, Gretchen, because that I know you love your kids, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be doing this, right? But there's got to be bitterness in there. That would be a very natural human reaction. I have people commenting here saying, yeah, the kids are entitled, or that's too much, or absolute. Ashley Jones says over on TikTok, absolutely not. And and Meg over on TikTok, Meg Fitz is saying rage room, Gretchen, go to a rage room. Not a bad call. I've had several clients lately who, I don't know if you guys know about this, the places where you can go and you can rent 10 minutes and they put out dishes and a TV and whatever, and you got to put on a helmet and sign off on a waiver, and you go in there and you got a bat or a hammer or whatever, you can pound the shit out of stuff. That helps, but especially the journaling.
Gretchen says there's so much underneath this. She is 38. He just turned 59.
Oof. What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
Well, sometimes that sort of age difference doesn't matter, and sometimes it's cataclysmic.
Yeah, and in this case, that hurts. I got to believe. So she's been left for a younger woman. I mean, it's almost a cliche that we hear that so often, but when you are that cliche, so to speak, and I'm sorry if that hurt. I didn't mean to hurt you with that, Gretchen. But when you are the person, it's real, and it hurts because you feel discarded, you feel old, and you feel unwanted. And you feel unloved and you feel hopeless. So yeah, there's a lot of feelings down there, Gretchen. All that stuff has come out. You've got some major healing to do. This is not something that's going to go away in a few months. This is not something that's going to go away in a year. It's not. Not 35 years. No. You have to commit to the healing. I strongly, strongly recommend. I'm sure you're doing the journaling and writing letters you don't send. And hopefully you're with a therapist. But at the very least, even if you can't afford a therapist, get into a group. And simple Google searches will get you in groups. We've got a group, the Badass Counseling group on Facebook is free. It's a wonderfully supportive community. We've just launched Community Plus on Badass Counseling, which is a limited enrollment community. It's a smaller one for people who just want more healing and more community. But you need to get into a group because there's something about sharing experiences. Rob, have you ever been in a group?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I've been in a trauma and grief support group, and it's very helpful.
Yeah, I was in a men's group when I was in my 20s. I was living in Alameda, California, and it was a men's group. And the oldest guy was probably in his 70s, and I was in my 20s. And I tell you, it's really powerful hearing other people's stories. And they feed off of your stories. You feed off of their stories. You inspire each other. You encourage each other. I would encourage that for you, Gretchen. I mean that very seriously because you've got some real healing to do, but this isn't your permanent state. This isn't your permanent fate. There will be love. There can be love again. Maybe you don't want it right now, and that's totally fine. But if the day comes when you want love, please don't think that just because you're in your 50s or in your 60s or even in your 70s that there isn't love, because I tell you what, we just had our Christmas party last week, and a good friend of ours, Bob, comes with his girlfriend, and Bob is 88. and his girlfriend is 82, and they're happy as clams, and they're canoodling and so forth. Rob?
Mad props for that.
Yeah, no shit.
Also, Gretchen wants to connect privately. Can you tell our listeners how they can reach you directly, please?
Well, actually, you can go to badasscounseling.com if you desire counseling. Please go to badasscounseling.com, read the counseling page, and then reach out through my assistant on the contact page. That's the best way to reach me. Or if you want counseling or any of the other million resources we have available on Badass Counseling, a lot of them are free, like this podcast. You come on this show and counsel. You can reach out to our producers, and they go through and they consider people, and you can be considered to come on the show. Everyone's anonymous, and we'll counsel you on the show. Also free. 1,000 videos on social media, all free. Resources, free. So, all right, let's see what's next. Steph says, Sven, I just went to a wedding for a 92-year-old and his 72-year-old bride. That's fucking great. That's beautiful. I tell you, we all need love, right? All right. Listen to this, guys. So on this notion of groups, Sheila Countryman says over on TikTok, she says, I just learned how to facilitate a group, wait for it, using horses to teach boundaries. Listen to that. I just learned how to facilitate a group using horses to teach boundaries. I have a lot of clients over the years who are in ranch industry, in rodeo industry, in farming, working with animals. A lot of folks, right? And I continue to be fascinated because I didn't grow up a huge animal person. We had a dog, but that was a cat. That was it. And I love animals. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know anything about them. Horses terrify the shit out of me. But Sheila's saying, I just learned how to facilitate a group using horses to teach boundaries. Folks, let's let that be a lesson in whatever quirky ass, odd interests you have in life. And someone's telling you, you can't make a living off that. So abandon it, basically. Tell them to fuck off. Even if you just say it inside yourself, pursue your interests. Who cares if you can make $1? Whether you can or you can't isn't the point. Sheila Countryman says, I just learned how to facilitate a group using horses to teach boundaries. If someone had said to her 20 years ago, you should consider maybe, or if she had the itch, I want to think about horses. I wonder if I could use horses to teach people about life and relationships. People would say, you're crazy, that's stupid, blah, blah, blah. And here she is. What a strange confluence of things to be using to teach and to help people. People, your unique interests are powerful and they are unique to you, and you have no idea the fruit that can grow from them. I so love that you said that, Sheila. I love that comment so fucking much. And then Rita chimes in and says, equine assisted learning, starting that here at my ranch this spring. They are amazing teachers. Fuck me in the ass. Holy cow. Ray Pitch, 29, says, you can be having the worst day imaginable. 10 minutes with a horse is soul healing. Rooster says, horses can be a huge benefit to teach body language skills as well. This is fucking incredible. Lizzie Lou says, I want to ride horses. This is great. All right, you got a question over there for me, Rob?
Sven, this is from Ryan. Sven, do you think you can heal faster after the kids are out of the house? My ex still plays my kids against me, and I believe it slows down the healing. Any advice?
Yeah, it definitely slows down the healing. Because think about what you just said, Ryan. She plays the kids against me. In other words, she's not interested in healing your relationship or herself. She's trying to hurt you. And she is weaponizing children to hurt you. You've just told me so much about this person you are in a relationship with. Do you see that? I think everyone else does, and I'm sure you do too. All right? My question is, are you trying to heal you or heal the relationship? If you're trying to heal you and she's pitching the kids against you, yeah, that is going to be easier when the kids are out of there because she won't be able to pitch them against you. But if the kids are still living with you, the hard part is that you also have an obligation to them. But your obligation isn't just to serve them, it's to set them straight as well. She's not allowed to tell lies. But why? Because children need their fathers too. They need you. And I'm not saying you have to turn against her or be mean to her. That's not what I'm saying. But you have every right to stand up for yourself. And not only do you have a right, you have a requirement to stand up for yourself and set the truth straight. Because your children need to know it. Otherwise, they will believe whatever they are being told if there is no counter message. And it is hard to heal when someone is still continuing to sling rocks at you. But the bottom line is this, is if she has no interest in healing when the kids are there, it's going to be difficult to believe that she's going to be interested in healing when the kids are gone. Now, maybe she will. But the bottom line is, whether the kids are there or the kids are gone, Ryan, you have no choice. You have to heal yourself. You have to be committed to the work. And yes, it is going to be harder because you're getting new rocks and new manure dumped into your love cup every day by her. And it is harder. But you have to. And your kids need you to be strong. They need you healed, and you need you healed. All right, next question. And Emily Fox, piggybacking on that, says, this is Emily Fox here on TikTok, says, it's hard when your spouse still has behaviors that trigger. Yes, you're absolutely right, Emily. No doubt about that. However, let's remember, people, a trigger is like, I want you to think in terms of dynamite and a match, or a dynamite and a lighter. All right? The lighter is the trigger. The match is the trigger. So if you're around a spouse whose behaviors still trigger you, that person is the lighter. They are the match. But remember, the dynamite is inside of you. So Ryan, the dynamite is the stuff you're trying to get that dynamite out of you, the very things that have the potential to blow you up. And that is all of your memories that have emotional charges attached to them. It's those emotional charges and the conglomeration, the growth, the accretion, the buildup of all those emotional charges become all sorts of fucking triggers. And the more you have in there, the more shit you have in you, the more easily you're triggered and the bigger the explosions. But let's remember, the lighter, the match, isn't the problem. The problem is the dynamite. The problem is the emotionally charged memories. Even I can spend my life trying to avoid matches and lighters, but I'm still walking around with dynamite inside me. I'm still a ticking time bomb. So that's why the healing work is going into those memories, feeling them, giving them words, and decharging them by flushing out the emotional charge. And the more you do that, the more healed you become, the less triggered you become. Now you can stand in a fire and it won't light any dynamite on fire inside of you. Why? Because there's no dynamite anymore. This is why one of the exercises I give to people, once they've begun to master journaling in particular, as well as a couple other releasing mechanisms I teach in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. One of the things I give them is what I call the bullet point exercise. And I don't even talk about that in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. It's a tool that I've devised since I wrote Love Cup. And it's a bullet point exercise. And I tell them, I want you to simply make a bullet point list. Get a bunch of pieces of paper and just bullet point every single memory that you have for your entire fucking life that has any sort of emotional charge attached to it. Preferably negative emotional charge. So, for instance, this morning, I literally woke up at 4 a.m. to use the restroom. And for whatever reason, something triggered this memory or that memory. And I had a memory of back when I was in high school and I said something and I made an ass of myself. A very common occurrence. And I was feeling embarrassment. It's 4 a.m. I'm walking to the bathroom. I'm itching my fat butt and I'm feeling embarrassed about this memory. It just popped into my fucking head, right? I've done a fuck ton of healing work in my life, but there's always new stuff. So I took a moment while I'm itching my butt and going, to the bathroom. And then while I go back in and I'm going through one of the releasing techniques I teach in the book. And I talk about in the book. Why? To flush out, to decharge that memory of making an ass of myself 37 years ago, 39 years ago, whatever it was, 40 years ago. Okay, so what's my point? My point is that it's not about what is triggering you. It's about getting the dynamite out of you. What is being triggered? So you bullet point list all of those memories from your past that have an emotional charge, and then you go in and you use those releasing exercises that I talk about in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and journaling and writing letters you don't send, and you write about each one, or you use these exercises, each emotional charge. And the more you focus on it and bring those feelings up and journal it out, now you're decharging that memory. And people say, well, fuck, that would take a lot of work. I mean, Christ, I'll be doing it forever. Exactly. You won't be doing it forever. And yes, it will take a lot of work, but you have no idea the payoff. And anybody who has done journaling, some amount of journaling, knows that journaling pays off. And what I'm telling you is this is one of those things that if a little is good, a lot is great. And it is. And the more you go into any past memory that you have that has any emotional charge, if you go in and decharge that using journaling and letter writing, not to mention the other tools, if you do that, your life will categorically change. I guarantee it. You will become lighter. You will have more spontaneous energy. You will become clearer in who you were. You will finally be comfortable being your authentic self. And I get people saying to me, Sven, I've been journaling for years, but I just feel stuck. I'm not getting anywhere. That's because there's something even deeper. There's something you're avoiding. There's something you're not wanting to touch. There's something you're not wanting to face. We just did a counseling episode this morning. We taped a counseling episode with, what was her name? Saruka and something like that. And
Sakura.
Sakura, thank you. And this was exactly it. She had been journaling and doing the letter writing, but she was stuck. She was stuck. And I said, well, what are you afraid of touching? And there was nothing there. There was no fear. And then I asked her the question, what is it you're not wanting to let go? What are you holding on to? And what we discovered was that it was her longing for her mother's approval. And that if she were to truly release all of the feelings of the past and so forth, it would mean letting go of ever getting that approval. And that was too big an ask for her. And she couldn't bring herself to do it. And so if you're stuck in your journaling, it's always because you're not wanting to let go of something or you're afraid of something happening. And now we journal on that and journal on that. And the more you do it, the lighter and freer and happier you'll become. We're going to take about 2 more questions. All right. Jeremy Barrett says, I did therapy. It was a mind blower, but his book was a universe breaker. Get the book. Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. I appreciate that. Not just because you're stroking my ego, but because the point is this fucking book works, guys. All right? It does. And if you don't believe me, go to Amazon. Just read the 1,500 reviews. 1,500 reviews. Most of them are 5-star or 4-star. There are a few 1 and 2 stars that say, oh, he's a dipshit. And I am a dipshit. But the book works. All right. Saza on TikTok asked the question, how do you heal sibling abuse? You heal sibling abuse the way you heal all abuse. Okay? First of all, I hope you are not still in contact with someone who has abused you or is abusing you. I hope you have created safe space for yourself, Saza. If not, I would encourage you to consider that. Secondly, what you do is get a pad of paper and a pen and write and just begin writing down, what am I feeling right now as I think about my sibling, let's just say Susie, and all that Susie has done to me. What am I feeling? Well, fuck. And just write it. It doesn't have to be anything clever. I'm feeling fucking angry as hell, or I'm feeling sad too, and I'm honestly betrayed because she never stood up with me to mom, even though mom and dad did that same stuff to her, and I'm feeling this and da 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 da. Or maybe you're right. I'm not feeling anything. I just have all these memories, but I don't feel anything. Great, write about that. Can I tell you something? And I was actually going to do a post on this later today and post it in the next couple of days because I've got a pretty good queue going of posts that I need to put up. I had a client say to me this week, he said to me, Sven, you know what journaling has done for me? I said, what? He says, in the beginning when I would journal, it didn't do anything for me. But you kept telling me to just keep doing it. And so I did. And it's like muscle memory, Sven. The more I do it, then the feelings began to come up. I didn't feel any feelings at first. But I just kept doing it. And then as I talked about it more and wrote about it more, the feelings began to come. So when you say, how do you heal sibling abuse? You start writing about it. If you've got a therapist, start talking with your therapist. Don't just talk about how your week went, folks, in counseling. Don't just talk about that from week to week to week. Go into the deeper shit, the past shit, even if your therapist isn't leading you there. All right? So you heal sibling abuse by bringing up the feelings, bringing up the memories, and by writing them out and talking them out and continuing to do that and how it made you feel and what you're feeling right now. If you had sibling abuse, it would be quite normal to be feeling rage, anger, betrayal, sadness, frustration, disappointment, melancholy, lethargy, right? Any number of feelings. And all of them are welcome. And memories. And write about those memories and the feelings that go with them. And the more you flesh that out, the clearer you're going to become in what you want for your life or what you no longer want for them or in terms of relationship or no relationship. But it requires going into it. The cure for the pain is in the pain. Next question. Go ahead,
Sven,
Mel.
just quickly, there's some back and forth on YouTube. You tell us to write letters that we don't send. Why can't we send the letters?
All right. And what I say is send the fucking letters. You want to send the letter? Send the letter. I'm going to tell you what I did. First wife left me. And I wrote so many fucking letters and I gave them to her and I sent them, pouring my heart out, letter after letter after letter, all these promises and all these things that I wanted for us and all the things I wanted to say and all the things I wish she'd talk about with me and all the things. And it didn't really move her. I'm sure she felt it some, but it didn't change the reality. And I was trying to change the reality, all right, between us, but she had left. If you want to try to change the reality between you and someone else, then write the fucking letter. If you're wanting something from someone. So very often people say, well, I want to say it to my dad's face. I don't just want to write the letter. I want to say it to his face. And I say, then say it. But if you're saying it wanting something in return, you need to go into that saying it, assuming you're not going to get it. Because you may not get it, in which case it'll feel like a fucking waste. Then you'll say, Sven's an idiot. And I'll say, well, I am an idiot, but I didn't tell you had to go in there and have that conversation with your dad. If you want to, do it. But the point is, you don't need to do that to heal. The goal that I'm trying to get you to isn't to get something from someone else. Hear me on this now. I'm not trying to teach you how to get something from someone else, that acknowledgement you always wanted, or the approval, or the affection, or the attention, or the apology. I'm not trying to help you get that. I'm trying to help you heal you. And you don't have to send the letter in order to heal you. You don't need not anything from someone else in order for you to heal. So many people say, well, Sven, how can I heal my relationship with my parents, and all the shit they did when my parents are dead? And I tell them, you don't need anything from a parent in order to heal. You don't. You think you do. You think you need that acknowledgement of all they did. You think you need them to confirm your worth, but you don't. That's what you want, but you don't need that. The tools I teach are to teach you how to heal yourself. Remember, I was in a 12-year suicidal depression. I didn't have a therapist who could help me out of it. No one could help me out of it. I had to figure out my own way. Therefore, I know that self-help works. I know that doing this work on yourself can heal yourself. With my clients, I charge an extraordinarily high rate, even by New York City standards. But my goal is to get my clients off of my tit as quickly as possible, to get them able to stand on their own 2 feet. Why? Because life is going to knock them down again, and I want them to have the tools. They can work with me as long as they want, but I want to teach them the tools to do it themselves, because then they're stronger. So you send the letters, don't send the letters. On one hand, it doesn't matter. The goal is to heal you. But if you're sending the letters, you're sending it because you're trying to affect a result, create a result in someone else. You're trying to get something from them or cause something to them. And if you want to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying don't send it. I'm saying don't send it. And the reason I'm saying in terms of your own healing, you don't have to send it. But if you want to, I say fucking go for it. Just know in advance you're probably not going to get what you want, because very often it doesn't affect the change that you want it to affect. The change I want to affect in you, EFFECT. The result I want to cause to happen in you is healing, and the letter doesn't have to be sent in order for you to heal. All right. I've got one last one here, and this isn't even a question, it's a comment. And this is from KL on TikTok. And I like this. KL says, as sort of an admonition to all of us, or sort of encouragement, I'll read it exactly as it's written. And when you do counseling, keep at it. I kept quitting when it got painful. Best thing I've heard all week. I see so many people, and not just when they're working with me, but I've had friends and family and so forth, people who quit when it gets uncomfortable. Quit when it gets a bit overwhelming. Quit therapy, or even quit their own self-help work when it gets scary, when it gets ugly, when it gets to be too much. And that's understandable. And you know what? Sometimes it's okay to quit. That's okay. But then you got to go back in. Sometimes we need a breather, but then you got to go back in. Why? Because that's where the healing is. And the whole point of therapy, in my work with people, I don't want them to be comfortable. My goal isn't to make you comfortable. My goal is to get fucking results. And you're going to be uncomfortable because I'm leading you into that cave that you've been running from your entire life. I'm leading you into that pain, and you're going to hold my hand, and I'm going to walk you through it. But you're going to do it. All right? The cave you most fear to enter holds the treasure you seek, but you got to be willing to go into that fucking cave, folks. Rob, any final thoughts or things?
Just to be as simplistic as possible, no pain, no gain.
Yes. Sometimes cliches are right. Although not necessarily right for the gym, even though that's where that one originated. No pain, no gain.
Works here.
What's that?
It works here.
It works here, indeed. If you are experiencing pain in the gym, please stop that exercise. It's like my doctor said to me this week, because I needed him to refill a prescription. I've had some inflammation in my shoulder. And I said to my doctor, that the meloxicam or whatever it is, I said, it really works. And I said, but I'm going to need another 2 weeks. And on it, and the doc, I said, it was working great. And then I went to the gym and I worked out. And then it was tweaking the next day. And the doctor said, Sven, I wonder what the problem is. Maybe quit working out for a while or use different exercise. I'm like, Joe, you aren't supposed to say that. Wait, I should stop something if it hurts? What Vostok. What language is this you speak? All right, folks. Anyway, this is it. This has been another taping of the Badass Counseling Show. You guys have had great questions. Rob, any final thoughts today?
No, I think I'm thought out, but I'm feeling good about this show.
I am feeling good about it. Lots of good questions. I like where it started and morphed into. We had those questions on God, spirituality questions, and then some more on that. We had those hard questions on this notion of integrating vices. And by integrating vices, folks, not the surface ones of popping pills and gambling away your life savings. We're talking about the deeper things you've been taught to believe are your vices, in character flaws, that sort of thing. But then we morphed into relationship stuff and family stuff, and then this conversation about sending letters. A great session today. Thank you, everyone, for your fine questions. I want to encourage you to take advantage of all the free resources available at badasscounseling.com. If you would like to be a guest on our show, the Badass Counseling Show, please write in to our producers on the production at badasscounseling.com if you'd like to be considered to come on the show for free counseling. Again, that is production at badasscounseling.com. We also have the free Badass Counseling group on Facebook. I think presently there are about 39,000 members. We've just launched Community Plus on Badass Counseling, which is a limited enrollment, limited to only 1,000 members on Badass Counseling. We've also got the books. There's A Hole in My Love Cup and the workbook. It's also available in Spanish. Soon it's going to be available in both Canadian French and Frenchy French. France French. Say that 3 times fast. French. Okay. Anyway, and so many resources that we're just trying to put as much out there to help you folks heal. If you want counseling from me, go to badasscounseling.com, read the counseling page, reach out to my assistant, Kate, on the contact page. We've got a whole team here, you guys. Rob is sort of king of the team on this show. And so that you guys get a quick reminder that Rob is the brains of this outfit. This show does not exist without Rob. This show is edited and everything happens because of Rob. And so I want to thank Rob, as I always do, and so many of you are aware of that. And he's gotten some nice feedback today. Rob's the GOAT and so on and so forth. But he's not just a technical wizard. He so often chimes in with just the right thing, just the right words, wisdom of a different era, and much more experience in so many things. And so I want to personally thank you, Rob, for all that you do for people.
Thank you. I learned a lot during the administration of Chester A. Arthur.
In 1843 or whenever that was. All right. And Betsy says over here, Rob is awesome. And All Pro Skin and Makeup says, thanks, Rob. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Badass Counseling Show. On behalf of my team, KC and Rob, whether you are tuning in from South Africa or Canada or Seattle or Denver or Minneapolis or Chicago, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by 2-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.